Hey y'all, we are Hannah and Jeremy with the Savory Suitcase, and in today's video, we're spending just one day in New Orleans with a foodie-focused itinerary. One very early morning in March, we took a quick flight from Tampa to New Orleans. We planned this trip as a bonus birthday celebration for Jeremy, and we flew in the morning and flew home that night.
We happened to be here the Sunday after Mardi Gras, so the city was still decorated and feeling pretty festive, but most of the major crowds had already cleared out. We ordered a $20 Uber from the airport and headed straight to the French Quarter, stopping first at Jackson Square with the iconic view of St. Louis Cathedral. This square marks the site of the Louisiana Purchase and the Battle of New Orleans, and today it hosts many artists, musicians, and tourists coming to celebrate the New Orleans spirit.
We made our way across the street for the first food stop of the day, the famous Café Du Monde. Known worldwide for their famous powdered sugar mountains on top of freshly fried beignets and their strong chicory coffee, Café Du Monde is almost a requirement when you come to New Orleans to get your official New Orleans experience. Tables are seat yourself and first come first serve, so on weekends and busy days you can expect to wait a little while to find a spot. They are also cash only, so make sure you have at least $20 in your pocket before you order.
The original Café Du Monde coffee stand opened in 1862, and nowadays it's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I don't know when they started putting this much powdered sugar on top of the beignets, but pro tip, hold your breath while taking a bite so you don't accidentally inhale it. And also, bring a few wet wipes to make sure you don't spend the rest of the day sticky. It was still pretty early in the morning, so most of the French Quarter had not yet opened, but we wandered through the French Market, which is a good place to pick up some knickknacks or souvenirs if you come later in the day, of course.
Our next stop of the day brought us to the New Orleans Riverfront along the banks of the Mississippi River, or as we like to call it, the mighty Mississippi. The riverfront has views of the Greater New Orleans Bridge and sits just next to the tracks for both the streetcars and the trains that run along the river. One of the things that we considered doing while we were on this trip was a river cruise on a paddle boat. On Sundays, they offer a jazz brunch cruise, but the cost is about $150 for 2 people, and we read that the food reviews were not very good. And there are so much good food in New Orleans, we didn't want to waste the stomach space on something that wasn't exceptional.
So instead, we opted to take the ferry to Algiers Point, giving us the same river views at the much more economical cost of $3 per person. The ferry is part of the New Orleans Public Transportation Service, so the $3 one-day pass was good for a full 24 hours, which also included buses and streetcars, which we will ride later in the day. We debated about just staying on the ferry and riding it round trip, but I'm glad we got off because we found a statue of Louis Armstrong and the New Orleans Jazz Walk of Fame. It's also a nice chance to get a different perspective of the St. Louis Cathedral and Riverfront hotels, including the Four Seasons, which is where we're headed next.
As I mentioned before, this trip was a bonus birthday celebration for Jeremy, who loves to try out new and unique restaurants. So I did a lot of research on the best jazz brunch options in New Orleans, and a lot of the recommendations came back to Miss Rivers at the Four Seasons. I was worried we might be underdressed, but no one seemed to bat an eye at our jeans and a t-shirt, so I guess it's pretty casual. But the service was exceptional, and the musicians who were playing were great. Really, an overall great initial impression when we walked in. Although, this is Jeremy's reaction to seeing the prices on the menu, so maybe next time I'll warn him. I ordered the flaming espresso martini that is prepared tableside, because how could you not?
Flaming espresso martini, Tito's vodka, Mr. Black coffee liqueur, and fresh brewed cold brew. Orange rind that's marinated in rum with cloves. Fire. Cinnamon and sugar. Flaming espresso martini.
Wow.
We opted to do a mix and match and ordered off of their prefix 3-course menu, starting with the sweet potato brioche bread and the beignet with ham plate. We got and shared the shrimp and grits as an entree, and then got the praline bacon. I think I can let these almost completely empty plates speak for themselves as to how much we like the food. Next, we literally walked next door to a restaurant at the Hilton called Drago's. One of our friends recommended this stop specifically to get the chargrilled oysters. Neither one of us have ever been huge oyster fans, but we decided it might be worth a try while in New Orleans. We only ordered a half dozen since we had literally just finished brunch next door.
The oysters came straight off of the grill, with the butter still sizzling. Jeremy was way more adventurous and jumped right in, but I am a little more leery.
Well, there's a lot of cheese involved there too.
Ultimately, we decided it tasted like butter and cheese, which isn't honestly too bad, and we managed to find room for all 6 oysters. And at only $17, it seemed like a pretty reasonable price to try it out.
After 2 back-to-back meals, we decided it was time to take a break from eating and head to the streetcar to see a little more of the city outside of the French Quarter. Streetcars have been running in New Orleans since the 1830s and today are still one of the most convenient ways to move around the city.
Because we were here the weekend after Mardi Gras, we were fortunate enough to catch one of the parades that happens later in the week, the Crew of Barkus, which is a nonprofit organization that raises money to benefit animal organizations in New Orleans and the Gulf South area. New Orleans celebrates Mardi Gras with a vibrant mix of parades, music, costumes, and parties that last for the weeks leading up to Fat Tuesday. The city is famous for the elaborate floats, marching bands, and the tradition of throwing beads and trinkets to the crowd. During Mardi Gras, parades organized by crews or social clubs showcase creativity, craftsmanship, and culture through their themed floats, costumes, and performances. Outside of Mardi Gras, parades are still very common, often led by brass bands, and are a unique cultural tradition rooted in African American communities celebrating life, death, marriage, and community pride.
The other thing that New Orleans is known for, besides their food and their parades, is dead people. Well, maybe a more tactful way to say that would be that New Orleans cemeteries differ from those anywhere else in the United States. The cemeteries here are above-ground tombs and elaborate mausoleums often called cities of the dead, a tradition influenced by the city's high water table and the Spanish and French burial customs. Most of the historic cemeteries are closed to the public to prevent vandalism, but the St. Louis Cemetery No. 1 is open for tours, but only with a guide and a reservation. We were only allowed to take photos, but this cemetery was both eerie and beautiful, filled with ornate stonework and rich cultural history.
Some of these tombs hold the remains of dozens of people, sometimes up to 100 or more. After the body is placed in the tomb, it is left to decompose naturally for a year and a day. Once that time has passed, the remains are removed from the casket, placed in a burlap bag, and pushed to the back into a lower chamber, making room for the next burial. The cemetery has over 100,000 residents, with some of the most famous residents being Marie Laveau, the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans, Homer Plessy, the civil rights figure behind the landmark Plessy versus Ferguson case, and one of the most unique tombs, a pyramid-shaped one owned by actor Nicolas Cage, intended to be his future resting place. Look it up.
Just like Café Du Monde is a tourist spot, so is Pat O'Brien's. Fun fact, we came to New Orleans for Hannah's 21st birthday, and her very first legal drink was at this bar at midnight. The Hurricanes are a fruity rum drink made popular in the 1940s when whiskey was harder to come by.
It's a little stronger than I remember, or maybe I'm just a little weaker than I was when I was 21.
Next up on our afternoon bar crawl was the Carousel Bar inside the Hotel Monteleone. Built during the hotel's renovations in the 1940s, the hotel owner wanted to create a unique feature for the bar that would attract attention and provide an unforgettable experience for guests. What makes this special is that the bar itself slowly rotates just like a real carousel, about one full turn every 15 minutes. Inspired by the growing popularity of carousels at the time, the bar was designed to give patrons a whimsical, ever-changing view of the French Quarter while enjoying their adult beverages.
The seats at the bar are first come, first serve, so you might have to wait a little and hover around until someone leaves to get a spot. But it's also interesting to sit on the not moving part of the room and watch the bar go around. Also makes it less likely for you to get dizzy after a couple cocktails. For our last stop of the day, we had reservations at Mr. B's Bistro. This was recommended to us as one of the best places to get Creole food in the French Quarter. We weren't sure if we would run into any dress code issues, so Jeremy threw on a polo shirt that he had in his bag just in case, but I think we would have been just fine.
Our waitress for this meal was amazing. She realized based on how we were ordering that our plan was to basically split everything. So she had the kitchen do that with anything possible and brought us plates for the dishes that they couldn't. We started off with the gumbo, which was really delicious but a little spicy, and then we had the bacon-wrapped shrimp and grits.
And then for the main event, requiring bibs, was the barbecue prawns. These were incredibly delicious, but also very messy. Luckily, they brought us some hot towels for cleanup. They even brought a little dessert for Jeremy to celebrate his birthday. Thank you for watching this amazingly packed day. This is the first in our City in a Day series, so subscribe to catch the next one, and we will see you on the next adventure.